my god, hey, welcome back. I haven't posted in like 2 or 3 weeks. Totally apologize, been busy, but I'm gonna be starting this new series type of thing that's like makeup and mental health. I just want to yap about mental health stuff, and today we're gonna cover autism while I get ready with you. So if you like that kind of thing, make sure you like and subscribe and leave me a comment on what kind of stuff you want me to film or talk about next, because I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. And also, if you're also autistic and you want to be besties, just let me know, because I would love some more autistic friends. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into talking about autism. What we're not going to talk about is my acne, but what we are going to talk about is autism, because if you didn't know, I'm autistic. Okay, I know most people don't think I seem or look autistic, but it's because when people think of autism, they think of level 2 or 3 autism, someone with a higher set of support needs than I have, which I'm coming to realize I have a lot more support needs than I thought I did. I'm just incredibly good at masking my autism. If you think you're autistic, I'm going to start by saying you probably are. If you've done enough research on autism and you think you're autistic, you're probably right. For the last 4 or 5 years, I'd say since like 2020, I have been kind of curious as to whether I had autism. I was diagnosed with ADHD back in 2021. Maybe it was 2022. I think I got tested for ADHD in 2021, but then wasn't formally diagnosed for a whole year after that, because my
ADHD was actually just my anxiety and a learning disability that I didn't know I had for 20 years of my life.
Just working overtime together to look like ADHD, but then after like a year of therapy, my therapist was like, oh girl, no, this is definitely ADHD. So anyways, got diagnosed with ADHD, whatever. Still not thriving. I was doing so, and it was little things. Like, there was just so many little things that never fit into any of my other diagnoses that I just like couldn't explain. And because I had such a different concept of autism and kind of what it should look like or would look like,
Based on AMAB people with higher support needs, because that's how the media portrays autism.
I very much was kind of joking when I said, oh, I think I might be autistic, because genuinely in my head, like, it was the only thing. It was either that or borderline personality disorder. They were the only two things that fit. And they were the only two things that made sense with what was going on in my life, in my brain, whatever. But I was kind of joking when I was talking about autism, because I didn't actually think I was autistic, but I did. I think it was very subconsciously I thought I was autistic, but every time I'd bring it up, people were like, you're not autistic. What the hell are you talking about? Like, what, like, do you even know what autism is? Like, you're not autistic. You don't seem autistic. You don't look autistic. Like, blah, blah, blah. Which, by the way,
What the f does that even mean? How do you look autistic?
anyways, I basically did not know at all until I was diagnosed, because I went to go get tested for borderline personality disorder, because that's what me and my mom both thought it was. And my therapist was like, yeah, girl, you do meet all of the diagnostic criteria for that, but you also meet all the diagnostic criteria for autism. And I was like, oh,
Slay.
basically she was like, I could put either of those, like, I would feel comfortable putting either of those on your file. Why don't you guys kind of take a second, do more research on autism? Because at that point my family had no idea what autism was in assigned female at birth people, right? So after we did some more research, my mom and everyone was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely autism. So that's kind of how I got diagnosed. But I wanted to talk mainly today about just like the little things that people thought were my strange little quirks when I was growing up, that really were just intense warning signs that I'm autistic, okay? Like, there were so many signs, and it is just insane to us now looking back at everything. Like, my whole life, there were so many instances and so many like memories that my family and I have of like raising me or whatever, and it's so unbelievably obvious. It's like insane. So I'm gonna start talking about some of the things that we kind of missed with me growing up that we thought were just like my weird little quirks, or because I was a ginger. That was a big thing. I have red hair naturally. I just popped out of the womb with a full head of red hair, right? My mom had this concept in her brain, which, like, fair enough, but she had this concept in her brain while I was growing up that most of the things that I was struggling with, or most of the things that I was like, all of my weird little quirks, they were all because I was a ginger. For example, I was fiery, I was dramatic, I was expressive, I was, I had a lot of opinions. I needed things to be fair. I was a lot. And that, in everyone's minds, I guess, around me meant, oh, Taylor's just a ginger. That's just how gingers are. Okay, the first thing that I would say is that drama, that kind of wearing my emotions on my sleeve is what I was always told. Like, I'm very dramatic, I'm very sensitive. I always, like, you can always tell what I'm feeling because I'm not good at hiding it. Like, if I'm mad, you're gonna know I'm mad. If I'm upset, you're gonna know I'm upset. Like, it's just, it is what it is. Like, I'm not good at hiding my emotions, nor do I really care to. I don't really care to hide my emotions. If I feel a certain way, I'm gonna let people know how I feel. So that was like one of the big things that was an issue for me growing up, was just how everyone perceived me as dramatic, but I was being dramatic to get any kind of, I'm struggling and I don't know how to communicate that, so I need to make everything so intensely big so that you understand that I am struggling. And that is very much a borderline trait, but it's also very much an autism trait. And because it started so early, like, it's always been my personality. It didn't start after a certain age or anything like that. Like, it wasn't like taught, like I didn't learn to be like that. I just naturally was like that. You know what I mean? So that was the biggest difference when she was kind of explaining borderline and autism. It's just that all of these traits that I'm explaining have been me from the day I was born. I didn't start being dramatic. I didn't start being sensitive. I didn't start being whatever at a certain point. Like, I've always been that way. So yeah, that was definitely sign number one, that like something wasn't right. But you know, my phobias kind of took over that because I had severe phobias as a kid. They're still phobias, but they're not as severe. They're not debilitating anymore. But like the emetophobia, fear of like vomit, and fear of bugs was so strong when I was a kid that it just kind of took over any kind of mental health help I was getting. And all of my help was surrounded around my phobias, which, like, great, whatever, it helped because I'm way more desensitized to those things now. But at the same time, I needed a lot more help than that, and it just like wasn't being recognized because of those phobias, I feel like. I've always had sensory issues. So when I was a kid, I remember my mom trying to get me dressed in the morning, and I could not wear anything except for sweatpants or leggings until I was in university, okay? I was so just like sensory overloaded by jeans or cords. My mom used to put me in cords a lot, like corduroy a lot when I was a kid. I couldn't do it. I couldn't handle it. And if I was wearing jeans, I was also a dancer, so I would wear my dance tights underneath my jeans because I just could not handle the feeling of denim on my skin. My socks had to be the right way, and if they weren't, whole temper tantrum, like whole tantrum. When my mom's putting my shirt on, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. Yes, you can, Taylor, it's fabric. You can literally breathe through it, no problem. I can't breathe. Like, it was little sensory things like that. I'm very sensitive to hairs. That's a big thing for me. So like showering has always been a struggle for me, like washing my hair, doing my hair. I have a very sensitive scalp, so being a dancer, the sensory of just having my hair up all the time and stuff, like, it was torturous. A lot of my costumes felt disgusting on my skin. Like, there was a lot of sensory issues, but I didn't really think of them as sensory issues. And it was kind of just like, okay, just force yourself to do it. Force yourself to power through, force yourself to be violently uncomfortable to the point that you want to have like a complete meltdown. But like, just do it because like that's what you have to do. You know what I mean? Like, everyone feels like this. Duh, everyone feels like this. No, everyone doesn't feel like that, Taylor. That's called sensory issues. But anyways, the sensory issues were definitely the one thing in my mind that didn't fit with borderline personality disorder, and were kind of the one thing that was tipping me more towards autism in my mind. But no one really, like, obviously my family noticed my sensory issues, but no one really understood how intense they were, obviously, because they weren't dealing with them. So if I was sitting there crying because my socks felt wrong, that was just Taylor being ridiculous and dramatic.
Right? Because Taylor's dramatic.
Another thing was my intense sense of justice that I've always had. This is something that I didn't even realize I had until very recently, to be honest. One time I vividly remember my sister and I wanting juice or something when we were playing or whatever, and I went to go get us juice, and I was sitting there like crouched over the counter looking, like making sure the juice was like completely level, and like if it wasn't, I'd be like, oh my god, and I'd have to start again. Everything was unfair in life, and I knew that, and I was pissed about it. I've always been pissed about how unfair life is because it's so unfair and it drives me insane. So yeah, strong sense of justice. Now it's obviously like political stuff and like human rights stuff, but back in the day it was just juice, and like that wasn't seen as obviously strong sense of justice. That was just seen as Taylor being
dramatic in particular.
I always was told growing up that I had princess syndrome, and what they meant by princess syndrome, and I still am told that I have princess syndrome, but now I think it's just replaced with autism because it's autism. My perfectionism is insane, and it always has been. It always has been. If I'm not spectacular at something the very first time I try it, I'm never doing it again because I'm terrible at it, and I failed, and I just should never try again, and I actually should just
end my silly little life.
That's not really how I think anymore, but like that is how minor inconveniences were to me. And like everything, like this is again the drama thing, right? Like in my mind, being overwhelmed by life or being overwhelmed by anything was like death was a better option. Like I could not handle kind of the overwhelming sense of life at a very young age. I started harming myself in ways. Also, random trigger warning, talking about suicidal ideation, self-harm, that type of thing. So just watch yourself if that bothers you. I started self-harming in different ways than you would kind of consider normal self-harm from a very, very early age. Typical hurting myself started in like 7th grade, I think. But when I was younger, I was obsessed with any kind of attention, good or bad. I was the kid in elementary school who always wanted to have a broken bone, always wanted braces, always wanted glasses. Like I was obsessed with crutches. I was obsessed with air casts. It was an obsession for me. For like being hurt was an obsession because I think I was feeling so much like emotional pain and like mental pain, but I didn't have the words or communication skills because I was a child to articulate that. So, oh, if I'm hurt, I get attention and I get help and whatever. Mom and dad are there for me. Shut the fuck up. Mom and dad are there for me. They help me. Like everyone cares. Everyone notices. Like blah, blah, blah. So I think that's why I started purposely trying to break my own bones. Yep, I did that frequently. Actually, I would take hammers to my ankles. I would jump off of bleachers and try to land sideways on my foot so that I could break my ankle. Like it was crazy. Apparently I didn't tell my parents about this because they just found out about this not that long ago. They were like, holy, we're purposely doing that. Like those weren't just like dance injuries, because I would be like, oh my god, I rolled my ankle at dance, like blah blah blah, take me to the hospital. It was never that. I did it on purpose because it was the only thing I could think of to get any kind of help or attention or anything. Like in my little autistic brain, that's all I could do because there's nothing wrong in my life. My life is fine. My family's great, whatever. Yeah, my parents are divorced, but like other than that, I literally have nothing wrong. So like, why am I feeling like this? And so like, all the time. So to combat that, I just decided to break my own bones. Solid, right? Special interests. That's another one. My special interests, like many people who are assigned female at birth and have autism, my special interests were makeup. So it was just seen as, oh, Taylor's just passionate about makeup. Taylor just loves makeup, always has, always will, type of thing. And that was a normal one. But there were also other ones that like just didn't seem so normal and make sense. And like my mom thinks about it now and she's like, yeah, like you being that violently obsessed with sharks and megalodons specifically at the ripe age of like 4 was crazy. And like that is strange. And like I have so much shark stuff everywhere. I have shark tattoos. Like I love sharks so much. Yeah, I have variety of special interests, but that was definitely one of the ones that was strange and no one really picked up on because I think my other special interests were so normal that it just kind of was like, oh, Taylor's just a weird kid. Like I think genuinely that's just what it was, is like Taylor's just a weird frickin' kid. Like what is wrong with this kid? But also like there's not anything wrong with this kid. It's just a weird kid. You know what I mean? Like I think that was the vibe. Now I see that that was not the correct vibe. Everyone was very wrong about that. There was indeed something wrong, and it's called #autism. But anyways, no offense, this is not it. This is not it. I don't like this. This is another one. I've always been a very outgoing person. I'm very loud. I'm very talkative. I like to talk. I'm a yapper for sure. But I only like to talk about things that I want to talk about. I was always told as a kid from my friends and stuff that I'm very self-centered and I talk about myself and blah, blah, blah. Because in my mind, what else is there to talk about? Like, I can talk about the things I like, the things I do, the things I read, the things I see, anything like that. But like, how am I supposed to talk about anything else? Little social things didn't make sense to me. There's little things, like I was asking my mom this Christmas, like, why do people even say Merry Christmas to each other or Happy Holidays? Like, everyone knows what time of year it is. I just assume that people are going to say that to me. So like, you don't even need to say it because why would you? I don't know, things like greeting card. Why am I sending you a card for Christmas? You're gonna read it and then throw it out. You probably won't even read it. You're gonna check if there's a gift card in it and then throw it out. So why am I spending my money and time doing that? Like, little social things like that have never made sense to me, and I just thought I was strange, and I didn't really think about it too much. I didn't really ask questions. I thought everyone had like a script in their head for individual people or like situations or types of people. I thought that everyone would severely stumble over their words and not be able to continue a conversation if the person went off the script that I had in my head, type of thing. Everything that I was experiencing, like, that were such clear signs of autism, I genuinely, in my heart of hearts, thought that everyone thought this or felt this and just no one talked about it. Like, I, for real, thought that I was just like everyone else and everyone felt the same way and just no one wanted to talk about it, and it drove me insane, to be honest. Why is no one like talking about how they hate the feeling of socks? Why is no one else like bothered by the fact that the world is completely unfair? And I'm like 8 years old talking to my friends on the playground like, oh, the world's unfair, and they're like, have you heard Selena Gomez's new song? Like, Taylor. And the other thing is, I had friends. I've always had friends. Since I've gotten older and kind of have learned about my autism diagnosis and stuff, I have significantly less friends, truly just because I don't care to have too many friends. I think friends are fantastic, but they're also a lot and exhausting, and humans in general are exhausting, so I don't have the mental capacity for too many of them. But as a kid, I was obsessed with having as many friends as possible because I wanted to be seen as normal, and, you know, I had friends and I was cool and blah, 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 whatever. So I would kind of get myself into these friendships that were not great, and I would stick with them for so long. That's the other thing. My commitment, dude, my commitment is insane. So many people like will switch high schools or switch schools or like sports teams or anything like that, the sport they're playing. Like, my best friend played like 4 different sports when she was growing up. I started dance at 3, continued until I was graduated out of it, so 18. And the only reason I left was because of COVID. Like, I had to. I stayed at the same studio for all 15 years. I went to the same elementary school from kindergarten to grade 8. I went to the same high school from grade 9 to grade 12. The only time I ever switched anything was in university. I dropped out of university and went to college. But then I stuck that college out. Like, I never switched colleges. Like, it was just, I'm very consistent in that type of thing, but then I also have ADHD on top of that, so it makes me very inconsistent in other aspects. But in like long term, like, I don't do well with change. When I was a kid, even if my mom worked nights when she was working somewhere, I don't know where she was working at the time, but even when she would work nights, she'd have to drop me off at daycare at 8 in the morning, because if I didn't go to daycare at 8 in the morning, I was an absolute mess the whole frickin' day. I can't do routine change, and with ADHD it's so hard for me to even make a routine. But once I get a routine, I cannot divert from it unless it's my own doing. I have no problem screwing up my own plans to do something I prefer to do. Like, if I had a plan to clean my room or whatever and I prefer to film a YouTube video, I have no problem screwing up that plan. But if I'm planning on filming a YouTube video and then someone's like, oh, we have to go here today, actually, I'm gonna be in a bad mood the rest of the day. Like, you just pissed me off and ruined my entire day. So there was a lot of that going on too. Just like not good with change, not good with, like, when my parents got divorced, oh my god, my sister was over it in 5 seconds and I spent a week in bed. Like, I was so heartbroken, and just like, it was a lot for me, but like, it seemed like my sister didn't really care. This is another one. I always had friends and I was always popular, I would say. Like, I was always in that kind of popular group in high school. Like, I would kind of weasel my way in there through friends or whatever, but I never really, I think, was actually in it. I genuinely think that people bullied me a lot more than I realized, and I think I just didn't realize they were bullying me, because I have realized since getting out of high school that my self-deprecation and the jokes I make are all just so negative and always towards myself, and they're always just such negative self-talk. And I was like, I wonder why that is. So I started thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, it's because people would like say something about me in high school and I would just laugh with them, so that they wouldn't be laughing at me. I'd just laugh with them, and then I just kind of picked up on that and started joking about myself, and I just kind of didn't stop. So I'm trying to stop that now, because like, it's not good for me. But yeah, I was always very much like, I had friends, I was popular, but I think I was bullied a lot more than I realized I was being bullied. But because I have -7 social awareness, I didn't really realize and just kind of got in on the joke and bullied myself while they were bullying me. You know what I mean? Anyways, those are just some of the autistic things that I did growing up that no one realized was autism. If any of this sounds like you growing up, I genuinely believe you're probably also autistic. So, you're welcome. If you want a part 2, please let me know. I'm literally just barely scraping the surface on all of my autistic traits. Like, there are so many, and I notice new ones every single goddamn day. So if you want a part 2, I can totally do that for you. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day. Sorry it took me like 2 or 3 weeks to post another video. Been busy, but I'm gonna get back on that grind, and I'll see you in the next video.